So you're a man and you're having some struggles in your relationship and you're wondering if some of those are because you might have a mother wound. In today's video, we're going to go over some of the biggest factors that point out in your relationship if you have a mother wound. A mother wound refers to the emotional issues or challenges that a man has with his mother, and these are going to be recognized by patterns, behaviors, or emotional gaps that he might have. So the first pattern that we're going to talk about is problems with setting boundaries or lack of boundaries altogether. A man who has a mother wound is going to have a lot of difficulty either setting too rigid of boundaries or having zero boundaries at all. And he may also find it very hard to accommodate other people's emotional needs or boundaries. He might often feel overwhelmed and end up shutting down or totally disregarding their needs in general. The next pattern that may indicate the presence of a mother wound is approval-seeking behavior. He will constantly seek approval or validation from others or fear disappointing others. This is going to bring up a lot of people-pleasing behaviors, a lot of feelings like he's not good enough or not worthy. If you're a man who has this type of mother wound, you may often say, "Nothing I ever do is good enough." This is because you may have been scolded by your mother a lot as a child, or no matter how good of grades you got, it wasn't good enough, or you may have been punished for things that weren't necessarily your fault or responsibility. The next revealing pattern that is so common, I see it so often, is codependency. This is where one's sense of self is heavily reliant on the approval and validation of others. I see a lot of men getting these relationships that end up being toxic because they need to find someone who thinks that they're the hero, who thinks that they're the most amazing person in the world because their identity is relying upon someone thinking the best of them. They don't have an internal sense of self-worth that is strong enough to find someone who is securely attached. So they have to find someone who is kind of toxic, who doesn't have the funds to take care of themselves, who's kind of a mess, who has father issues perhaps, and they create this perfect unit where they're codependent on each other to help each other out. If you're a man who has this, you're going to tend to feel incomplete or inadequate without a relationship. And this is something that I see a lot of men go through, even though they may not think that they're codependent. Codependent isn't just saying, "Oh, I need you to do everything for me." It's also emotional codependence as well. You're relying on them to regulate your emotions, to help you understand how you feel, or you need them to feel good in order for you to feel better. That is also a form of codependency that a lot of men unfortunately experience. The next one is intimacy issues. If you're someone who has trouble getting deeply connected to someone or experiencing things on a deeper level, you may have a mother wound, because one of the factors that a mother plays in a son's development is his emotional stability, his emotional understanding and regulation. So if your mother was emotionally unavailable, you may only tend to develop surface level relationships where it's more of a bargaining, a give and take, an exchange of goods, not something that is emotionally connected. You may also fear becoming vulnerable or getting too close emotionally, perhaps because it was used against you, or perhaps because you just don't know how. You don't know how to get emotional, you don't know how to get vulnerable, and you've never experienced a safe environment to do so. If this one particular pattern is something that you struggle with, whether you have a mother wound or not, I encourage you to click for the free masterclass below, Emotional Self-Mastery for Men, where we help target and identify emotions that are trapped in your body, why they're going on, and what to do and how to fix them. It comes with a worksheet and it's totally free, so click that link below to get that. Which brings us to our next pattern that reveals if you have a mother wound. Avoidance or fear of conflict. If you are a man who has a mother wound and you have an avoidance or fear of conflict, generally emotions were shut down in your household. You weren't allowed to be upset. You weren't allowed to be angry. You weren't allowed to be anything but what the parent was feeling in that particular moment. And since it's generally the mother's role to help reflect our emotions upon us, I'm guessing that your mother was very emotionally unavailable or very stern. Maybe she had to do everything by herself. Maybe she experienced a lot of bad male role models in her life that made her reject masculinity, that maybe made her reject you and want to train you into being and rejecting your own aggression. Either way, you're likely going to run away or avoid conflict if you have this type of mother wound. The next pattern to recognize is emotional unavailability and negative self-talk. If you're a man who has a mother wound, you're generally going to develop a negative sense of self because you didn't have nurturing or soothing or support or the encouragement to find out who you were. If you lack a mother's true unconditional love or the sense that someone's going to be there for you or love you no matter what, you tend to, as a survival mechanism, just become a chameleon and adapt yourself to whatever the adult in the room needs. So that means also developing a type of perfectionism where you never feel good enough. You never feel worthy enough. And when you never feel good enough, you never feel worthy enough, you have a negative sense of self-talk. So you just constantly bash yourself. You're stupid. Why did you do this? You should have known better. I know a lot of people are sitting there going, yeah, that's me. I say that to myself all the time. This negative sense of self-talk is something that you developed as a way to prevent yourself from being hurt when you didn't get the love and response you actually wanted to as a child from your mother. This can also heavily come from a father wound as well, where you constantly feel like a disappointment to your father or like you're not good enough or like you're not man enough. But from the mother wound, she creates the foundation of emotional safety, and emotional safety is what inspires the negative self-talk. Chances are, if you have this type of mother wound in your romantic relationship, there's going to be a lot of arguing, a lot of negativity, a lot of self-deprecation that tends to drag the relationship down. Either you're being very aggressive towards your partner and cutting them down all the time because you're projecting, or you're cutting yourself down so much that it actually, you feel like a burden to them. You feel like a burden to your partner, like you're never good enough. And in that way, it kind of invalidates all of their feelings because you make everything about you. This type of mother wound tends to develop within us a very selfish perspective where, we feel like so much of a burden or we feel so ungood enough that we forget that another person is there. And we are making all of their responses, actions, negative feedback about us instead of comforting how it is about them. If you can heal even the negative self-talk aspect about yourself in relationships in general, it completely shifts the way all of your relationships go and sometimes even prevents them from failure because you step out of the box that says me, everything is about me, and you step into a place where you can actually hold space for your partner. And holding space for your partner means allowing them to feel negative emotions or feelings without you running away, without you taking it personally, without you lashing out at them, and with you actually being able to validate and comfort them. This alleviates negative energy from the relationship just in general and allows both parties to experience a sense of security within the relationship. And the last and most important pattern to recognize if you have a mother wound is typically going to be role reversal. This type of man tends to take on the caregiver role in the relationship as opposed to the provider. He tends to develop a lot of female type of tendencies, dynamics, and generally just doesn't have the masculine energy that he desires or that his partner desires. And this is not to say that every man should be the same or every man should be a provider or anything like that. This is just saying in general, if a man has a mother wound, he may develop role reversal where he had to take care of his mother as a child, and so he tends to become the caretaker. If he can start to reverse this role in adulthood and become more of the provider while keeping the gift that has become nurturing for him, he's going to sense a complete shift in the dynamic of relationships that he ends up getting into. Once again, it's important to note that these factors are not going to be 100% based on just the mother's role. A lot of other factors are going to be included, including the father wound, environment, culture, things like that. So take this with a grain of salt where it's necessary, with what you resonate with what you recognize. Let me know if it helped in the comment section below, and don't forget to check out these other videos on how to heal the mother wound and other relationship dynamics in your life. And if you're feeling so compelled, you want to be more supported, don't forget to click below and join the Better Man membership, where we meet every single week. We're in the community every single day, helping you feel better, do better, to be better as a better man. And I'll see you in there.